Hello, hello, everyone. This is Brenda from Stamplicity, and welcome to Fun Friday. All right, this Friday we are looking at the Lawn Fawn Build a Critter collection. Uh, just because last week was the brand new Lawn Fawn release, and there was a brand new accessory die for our Build a Critter. All right, and that was the spring accessories. All right, so this is the die, and I'll explain to it because you're probably wondering, what does that create? Well, these are little costumes. These are little spring costumes for our little Build a Critters from Lawn Fawn. So let me just back the train up a little bit, show you the Build a Critters from Lawn Fawn. All right, so last year Lawn Fawn released the Build a Critter bunny. All right, so I did a Fun Friday using this, showing you how to put the bunny together. And it's got different faces. You've got the circular eyes, and then the happy eyes, as I call them. You can make your bunny stand and sit in different positions and such. And then all these little pieces will build the bunny. All right. Then they came out with the Build a Critter Fox, all right, which is super, super cute. And again, you have multiple kind of arrangements that you can make the fox, sitting, standing, different faces as well, all right. So we're going to be using both of those. I'm going to kind of review of how to put them together. So that's what we're going to focus on, the Build a Critters. These will be our critters. And then Lawn Fawn has been creating kind of little outfits so you can dress these critters up, all right. So when they first brought out the bunny, I'm not sure if it was they had costumes then or they came out. Halloween had costumes, so we had the more costumes. Valentine's Day, Christmas, they all had these kind of accessory dies, so you can dress up your character. So this spring, with Easter on its way, we have this spring accessories. Now, this die set will have a costume that is a spring chick, which is going to be kind of this one here, into a spring floral, and then an Easter egg. All right. So if you ever struggle with, what all these pieces are for, especially with the bunny and the fox and how to put them together, there's a couple of things that you can do. Now, on our online store, if you search for either of these products, the bunny, the fox, the accessories, if you find them on our online store, if you scan through the pictures, there'll be little kind of PDFs that you could print out, or pictures that you can print out on how to build the characters. You can also find these on the Lawn Fawn site as well. All right. So they're going to give you step-by-step directions on what to die cut, and how to place them together and what goes with what. All right. So that's with the costumes as well as the critters, and you can build them into, the standing position, the sitting position, etc. All right. So just know that that resource is there. Um, and it is available if you ever get confused. Now, I would recommend just printing them out and then tucking them in with your die so you always have them with your die and you don't have to research it when the time comes. All right. So I'm not going to lie, I had to research the fox. The bunny, I understood how to put together, but the fox, there were so many pieces I had to actually look at that. So I too need to print them and put them in here because I know I'm going to forget. All right. So let's get started. I'm going to start with putting the little characters together. So we're going to do the bunny and the fox, and both of these are going to be in a standing position. All right. So I've cut the necessary pieces out. So the bunny I did in white. So for this here, we have the bunny head, and then we have the bunny body. Then we have two little bunny arms. All right. And then these are kind of the backing pieces. All right. So this little looks like a little ears headband. This is actually going to go behind the ears so that we have that pink inner of the ears. The piece that looks like a telephone receiver, this actually is going to go behind the eyes to fill them in. And then our little pink circle here will go behind the nose to give them a little pink nose. All right. So those are the pieces that I'm going to put together. And because we're going to dress him up as a chick, I really don't need his arms. I did cut them up, but cut them out, but we really don't need him because I'm going to dress him up as a spring chick and he's got wings. All right. So let me just kind of put this together just as a refresh. All right. So I'm going to start with the head. I'm going to flip it back to the back side. And I'm going to just use fine line glue and just put a little bit of glue just kind of behind its ears. And we're going to put that kind of pink headband piece right behind. Now, Lawn Fawn has developed these dies in such a way that they're going to fit just perfectly. All right. So, liquid glue is going to be your friend for obvious reasons. This way you can shimmy it right on, and that's going to give the little backing behind the ears now. All right, so there's that. And then I'm going to take the little telephone receiver piece. Now this is all going to fit so nicely together. It's like a little jigsaw puzzle. So I started with that. This piece is going to get butt up right against that headband piece. All right, looks like he's got shades on now, right? So cute. All right. I guess if you cut them out of that kind of a holographic mirror paper, you could probably use them as those kind of sunglasses. All right, so that's going to fit on. And remember, this is all on the back side. And then behind the nose, you can see it's kind of like a circular little shape there. And this little piece is going to fit right in there. All right. So now all our little pieces from the front are filled in. All right, so they're so cute, isn't he? Now there is a little die on here to put little rosy cheeks on there. All right, so it's this little die here. You could cut that out of pink and put it on there. And I didn't do that. You can, but I didn't do that. All right, so then I'm going to take his body. All right, and you'll see that, let's see if I can get the camera to focus. There we go. There is a little debossed line there. That's to line up your head. So we're just going to put adhesive just above that line. And then we're just going to put his little head up to that line. And now he's got a body. All right, look how cute that is. Super cute. Okay, now if I were to put the arms on there, now I could put the little arms on there. He's got different arms. These may be the wrong arms, but there's other ones. I might have cut these ones. These are the ones if you want them extended out, I think. But doesn't matter. We're not going to use the arms anyways. Oop, my head's falling off. Because we're going to dress him up as a chicken. All right. So there's our little bunny. All right. Just pretend he's got arms, but we're going to put the costume on. All right. So now let's go to our spring accessories. Now for the chicken, we need this piece here. All right. So it looks just like a monster or a fish or something like that. Then we've got his little webbed feet. All right, so I cut them out of orange. We've got his little wings. We've got the little beak. All right, can't have that without that. And then I don't know what this is called, but the little thing on top of his head, on a chicken's head. I don't know what it's called, but it's that piece right there. All right, we got that piece. And then I have these two little black pieces, all right? These little black pieces are actually the pieces that are going to fit behind the eyes on the character, all right? And there's one way of putting it. If you put it one way, it's going to extend off. If you put it the other way, it's going to fit nicely behind there, all right? So let's do that. All right, so we're going to build the costume first. All right, so we're going to put the little backings behind the eyes on the costume. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue behind there. And that takes care of that. All right, let's put his little beak on now. So again, the beak, there's the positioning there. So you see that little triangle up there just above the inner circle there? That's for the beak. So we're just going to line things up. We're going to put a spot of glue there. And then I'm going to grab our little beak. And position that on there. Yeah, I knew my tweezers have a little bit of glue on there and I knew it was going to pull it off. All right, so there's our beak. All right, and then we can put that little thing, I don't know what it's called, on the top. And I'm just going to put a little dab of glue there and then stick it at the top. And that becomes our little spring. Look how cute that is. Oh my gosh, so sweet. Okay, so before I put the wings on and the feet on, I'm going to actually attach this now onto our bunny. All right. So basically, you want the head, the face of the bunny just showing through. And look how stinking cute that is. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue that on now. So just going to put a little glue here. You don't need a whole lot of glue, enough just to tack it down. Oh my gosh. If this does not make you smile, just so sweet. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Super cute. Oh my gosh. Lawn Fawn. I mean, they just are they think of everything. Okay, let's put a little webbed feet on. So they're just going to go right over top of our bunny feet here. So I'm just going to, they're like little shoes we're putting on him. All right. So you're still going to see a little bit of his legs. And we'll put the other one on. There's little webbed feet now. He's got little chicken feet. All right, so there's that. And then we have the wings now, or yeah, I guess the wings. All right, so, and again, you can have some fun with the wings. You can have them out. You can have them along the body. It's completely up to you. So I'm just going to put a spot of glue kind of in that pointed section there. And then I'm going to have these little wings coming out, because I think it's really, really cute. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And our little rabbit is now dressed as a spring chicken. Look how sweet that is. Super cute. So if you have the bunny in your collection, this is just a nice little addition to make some Easter and spring cards. All right, so there is that one. All right, let's move on. I'm going to put him to the side, and then let's do our little fox now. Now, the fox I've never shown you how to put together, all right? So we're going to go through this. Very simple to do. Once you usually do one, that becomes very, very easy, all right? So let me just move my little pieces out here. All right, so for this one here, we have this piece here. Now it looks like a fox head, but this is the backing piece for his eyes and nose and such. All right, so that one's got no eyes or cut out. And then we have the main face. Now the main face is going to be in, I did it in a cream color. All right, so we have the main face, and then we have the overlay, which is in that kind of terracotta rusty color, that fox color. All right, so this is going to overlay and overlay. All right, so we need the three pieces for the head. All right, and then we have the body. And again, this is going to be a stand-up position fox. We have the body. And then we have his big tail, and that's cut in that rusty color as well. But remember, a fox's tail's got that little tip on there. So we have the little tip, and that I did in cream. All right, so that's going to overlay on top of there to give him his little tip of the tail. All right. We have his arms as well. Okay, so I cut two of his arms. We have his little black feet. So these are little overlays for his feet, little booties. And then we also have the little overlays for his arms as well. Okay, so that's the components that's going to make the stand-up fox. And if I was doing this as just a fox, then he would also have a little belly. All right, so which I think is this one here. And I would cut that out of cream. But because we're going to be covering that, I did not cut that out. But again, make use of those resources that Lawn Fawn has with those PDFs that you can print out on how to build the foxes, and that's going to really help you build the different positions of him. All right, so let's go ahead and put him together. So I'm going to start with that cream piece. We're going to start on the back, and we're going to attach the backing, which is the black. All right, so I'm just going to add a little bit of glue on the back. And again, this little piece is going to line up nicely right behind there. So you just want to kind of position it. All right. You have a little bit of leeway on, like they cut it just as it cuts a slightly smaller than the original piece. All right. So you can shimmy it. All right. So there's that. I guess you could make this into a kitty cat as well. Never thought of that, right? It does have that appearance of a cat, right? Oh, I did not do his little nose. Oh, okay. All right, we're gonna cut that out. It does have that little circle, all right, just like on the bunny. So I'm just gonna quickly cut that out and let's give him a little, I don't know, I'm gonna give him a pink nose, a dark pink nose. I don't know what color a fox's nose is. We're gonna give him a pink nose. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue that behind there. Oh, it's not, yeah, it's his nose. I was gonna say it's his mouth. No, it's no, it's nose. All right, so I just did it in a darker pink because that's the first pink I grabbed. All right, so there is that. All right, he looks kind of weird right now, but let's put this little overlay now and take a look. Now he looks more like a fox. All right, super cute. So I'm going to take this and we're going to put glue behind it and we'll stick it right over top and this will line up right with the main head. All right, so you're just going to place that on. Ears line up, eyeballs line up. All right, so there we go. We've got our little fox face. Super cute. Okay, I'm just gonna let that dry. Let's do his little tail. Like I said, that little end, the little tip, just glues on. It just matches the end of the other, the main tail. All right, and then we're gonna put his little booties on. So I'm just gonna put a couple of spots of glue on his feet, and then I'm just gonna put his little black booties on. And I'll do the same for his arms because we will need his arms for this one, all right? Because we're dressing him up as a flower. And which is really cool because this one here, I'm going to show you two ways that you can actually use the flower. So, all right, then we have his arms. So again, I'm just going to put a spot of glue just at the end of them. And then we'll stick these guys, the little booties of his front paws. All right, so there is that. All right, now let's put him together. All right, so again, on his body, you'll see that debossed line on there. All right, you're going to put your adhesive, your glue just before above that, and then you're going to stick his head on. All right, now I'm not going to put his tail on. I'm not going to put his arms out until I get him dressed in his costume. But there he is. And again, if you were just making the fox itself, you would want to have his belly on there. But I know we're going to cover it, so I didn't waste my time die cutting that. All right, so there is the fox. Okay, so we're going to dress him up as the floral. And I think this floral is just so stinking cute. So we've got the actual floral, and that's what's going to go around his head. All right, so we have the floral, and I love the stitching design on there. Then we have this kind of little frame, and that's going to go on the inside. So it's just going to frame his little head really, really nicely. All right. Then we have these two pieces. Now, you can do this in a couple of ways. We have the leaf and then we have the body. Now, the body is going to match up to his body. It's just going to kind of tuck right underneath his little chin there. And then we're kind of making him as the stem of the flower. And then the leaves will kind of curve around here so that let me just put this all on together so you can kind of see. So it makes them into a floral. But you could also omit this green body part. All right, you could, and you could just have them as the fox body, and you can actually use, before you put the head on, you could tuck this in between the body and the chin, all right? And now this becomes, he has just a little leaf coming out from underneath his chin. So either way would be fine. If you do it this way, you want to make sure you do the fox's tummy, all right? Piece that I didn't die cut, you want to make sure you do that. But either way would be fine, all right? But we're going to do it like Lawn Fawn had intended to this. I'm going to use this little green body, and we're going to stick that on. So again, that's just going to line up right underneath. Like everything just matches ever perfectly, just perfectly. All right, so there is that. Then our little leaves. Add a little bit, and you could use foam adhesive on these too to give it some real dimension if you wanted to. Um, so this is going to match up here. All right, so there is that. And before I put his little floral head piece on, I'm going to put the little frame around this. All right, so this is really fine. So having a fine tip glue is really going to be your friend on this. And again, this is just going to match right on here. You don't need to put this on. It just gives it another color, because you do have that stitching design on the inside of that floral as well. But I like to splash of color. All right, so there's that. And now this is going to go on. I think for this one here, I am going to pop it up just because I really wanted to give it that kind of dimension. And all right, so I think that will be sufficient. And now we're just going to frame this right on his little head, making sure everything is kind of centered, his eyes and such. All right. So I've got that on there. Now my little foam adhesive is, I should have put on the ears. Can I take this off? I was going to say it's exposed, so you're going to have to be careful. But I'm going to put this right on the ears now because the ears are completely covered. That would be a better option. Yeah, there we go. All right, take a look. Oh my gosh, so cute. All right, now let's get his arms out on. So I think I'm going to have his little arms coming out from his body. Yep, okay. So again, I'm going to just put some glue at the ends and then we'll put his tail on. Oh my gosh, so cute. All right, and now let's put his little tail, and that's going to come from the left-hand side here. So again, I'm going to just put a little spot of glue at the end. And then we can just kind of stick it on. And you can change the angle of it. And there is our little fox dressed up as a flower. Oh my gosh, super cute. Okay, the last one that was on here is the egg. And I just want to talk about that one really quick. It's a really simple one. And that's why I chose not to do it. There's only 2 pieces, all right? So for the egg, you would just cut that out, and that would be on the body of the animal, all right? And then the little cracked piece would go on the top of this head, all right? So that one, I figured that one was easy. I think you can really figure that one out. But the other 2 had more pieces to it. That's why I chose to do those 2. But here are our little spring friends, our Build-A-Critter fox dressed up as a spring floral. And then we have our Build-A-Bunny, our Build-A-Critter bunny dressed up as a spring chick. So cute. We'll get these on cards. We'll get these posted. But how sweet are those? Ah, love it, love it, love it. You could also have some fun with pattern paper for this as well. The new pattern paper from Lawn Fawn, the Bitty Blooms, would be awesome to create the floral and this little element on there, because the patterns are really dainty on there, would be great. But the bright cardstock, the bright colors of the cardstock are awesome as well. All right, everyone, that is it for Fun Friday. Hope you liked our cute little critters. Don't they make you smile? And that is the Lawn Fawn Build-A-Critter bunny, Build-A-Critter fox, and then the Build-A-Critter spring accessories. All right, you can all find them on our website at www.stamplicity.ca. And we'll post some card samples with these lovelies shortly after this live, so you can see how they actually work on a card. But don't forget, you can actually use these in your mini albums and your albums as well, because they do have some substance to them. All right, everyone, have yourself a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon.